We're going to study the Doctrine Class this afternoon. And last Friday, Doctrine Class, we talked in the second pages book, a clear questions from our patriarch, Brother Daddy Pedro. The second pages, chapter 1, verse 24, entitled, A Clear Conscience. This afternoon, as we continue, we're going to study the book of Corinthians, chapter 2, verse, chapter 2, verse 1 to 11, and entitled A Compassionate Time. And must give respect to the words of God. I invite all of us to stand and open your Bible. We're going to read alternately, and in the last verse, we will read together 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 1 to 11. I'm going to read the first and read the second. 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 1. I will read it. But I determined this is with myself, that I would not come again to you in heaviness.
For everyone is sorry, who is in the God, but the same is sorry unto me.
And I wrote this saying unto you, lest when I came, I should have sorrow from them, of whom I ought to rejoice, having confidence in you all, that my joy is the joy of you all.
For all of us that should have words, I hope the Lord will be many years, that I should grieve, but never know the love which I have all about you.
But if any have caused grief, he hath not grieved me, but in part, that I may not overcharge you all.
Sufficient to such a man is my punishment, because was written with me.
So that the contrariwise ye ought rather to forgive him and comfort him, lest perhaps such a one should be swallowed up with overmuch sorrow.
Wherefore I beseech you that you would confirm the love toward me.
For to this end also did I write, that I might know the proof of you, whether ye be obedient in all things.
To whom you forgive anything, I forgive you also. For I have forgiven anything, to whom I forgive it. For your sakes, forgive I the person of Christ.
Altogether,
Let's not share the abundance of us, for we are happy for our Jesus Christ.
shall we pray? Lord God in heaven, pray, O God, we humble ourselves before you. Thank you for the words that we're going to study together. Lord, we ask the presence of the Holy Spirit to illuminate us and to listen to your word, and that may your word be put it in our hearts. We may be not only listeners, but also doers of your words, O God. Lord, we claim the victory, and I ask the Lord Jesus Christ to empower you, O God. Use me, O God, as I will want this. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. You may be seated. The compassionate heart is our need. So, the 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 1 to 11. So, the background, the 2 Corinthians is related to the assembly that was founded by Paul in his first visit to the city. Since his departure and subsequent ministry in Ephesus, the apostle has led a great deals of the serious problems in the assembly, fermenting in the ministry. Problems with worldliness, internal wrangling, doctrinal defections continue to fester in spite of Paul's effort in the first epistle. The purpose and argument, in the light of their problems, Paul wrote the 2 Corinthians in order to address some of the problems, many of them, but I will just mention is regarding is how to instruct the offender, and then there is the compassionate heart, when we examine or dissect together what Apostle Paul advised or letter to him. So in the introduction, one of the members of the Corinthian church caused Paul a great deal of pains. Perhaps this person was mentioned in the 1 Corinthians chapter 5. The story in the 1 Corinthians chapter 5 have his father's wife. Okay? One member of the church had taken his stepmother and had married her. This man is a worse crime than adultery. It is incest. We compared in the Leviticus 18:8 says, "The nakedness of thy father's wife shall thou not uncover, if it is thy father's nakedness." And as we continue, that this man's challenge Paul's apostolic authority. Paul had a very quick visit according to deal with the problem in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 14 and 13. And had also written a faithful letter to them about their situation. In all of this, he revealed a compassionate heart. Note the evidence of post-love for them. To continue, three things we're going to examine or to dissect in the letter of Paul. Number one, in your handout, love puts others first. Love puts others first. In verses 1 to 4, "But I determined this with myself, that I would not come again unto you in heaviness. For if I make sorry you, who is hidden, that make me glad, but the same which is made sorry by me. And I wrote the same unto you, that when I came, I should have sorrow from them, to whom I ought to rejoice, having confidence in all, that the joy is the joy of you all. For out of much affliction and anguish of heart, I wrote unto you with many tears, not that you should not be grieved, but that ye might know that the love of which I have more abundantly unto you." So you can see here how the hearts of Apostle Paul for them. So he wrote this letter with lots of tears. He placed the emphasis here how he valued them, this assembly, this Corinthian church. In Christian ministry, those who bring us great joy can also create for us a great sorrow. Sometimes gano'n na nangyayari. And it happens. And this was what Paul was experiencing to them. He wrote them a stern letter born out of anguish of his own heart and valued Christian love. So when he wrote this one, he wanted to emphasize to them how his love for them and how they should be clothed with love. His great desire was the church might obey the word, that they are continuing in their faith, discipline the offender, and bring purity and peace to the congregation. So, medyo mabigat itong this chapter. Letter B, Paul knew that his words would hurt them, but he also knew that he was not trying to hurt them. You know, as a parents, when you are even for the church in application, sometimes we have to stand for the truth, and we have to, if it is even can hurt, but in correcting a person or a member, it need to be applied. He said what he said because of his love for them. In Proverbs 27, verse 6, "Faithful are the words of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful." So, we know it is, to understand this is better, I mean, when your friend is telling you the truth, okay, than when they are with you in front of you saying something, but behind you, when you turn his back, they are saying something. But in the church, in the ministry, when someone has a report, we have to stand for the truth and to correct the person. So it's better to do that than do nothing. So that puts others first. sometimes those who love us attack us in order to keep us from harming ourselves. Paul ministered to them with patience and love. You see, even Paul's his visited to them was delayed, but his desire to see them is there, and his concern are still there. Second, love also seeks to help others grow. Number two, that love also seeks to help others grow. In verse 5 to 6, but if any have caused grief, he hath not grieved me, but in part, that I may not overcharge you all. Sufficient to such a man is the punishment that which was inflicted of many. No, to stop them, the payment of the offender. Now, if we dissect the word in the verse 5, but if any have caused grief, Paul is generalizing in order to state a principle. At the same time, he is speaking specifically to the situation which was recorded in the 1 Corinthians chapter 5. What he said, if any had caused grief, okay, Paul is realizing in order to state a principle, but at the same time speaking specifically to the situation. And then as we continue, but in part, he had not grieved me, but in part, that I may not overcharge you all. So, if someone has caused grief in the assembly, his offense is not so much against the apostle as it is against the local assembly or the local church in the Corinth. So, which means it's not too much for the offense that was given by this person to Apostle Paul, but much more to the church. And then to put it in my plea. For this reason, the obligation of this discipline lies not on the shoulders of Apostle Paul, but on the leadership of the local church. And Paul is prepared to go along with their decision. So if you will see, notice in the verse 10, it says, I will read, to whom ye forgive anything, I forgive also. For if I forgive anything, to whom I forgive it, for your sake, forgive it I in the presence of Christ. So we see here that the decision for the local assembly or for the church, where is Apostle Paul also, he gave his sanction to the ruling. When what the church applies, there he has also approved, or he does not contradict. In verse 6, sufficient to such a man is this punishment. This was inflicted of many. So the word sufficient here, so your discipline of this individual is enough, according to also sufficient. Paul says that they had gone far enough in bringing this person to repentance. So, a true church, discipline is evidence of love. Don't be mistaken. When the church is applies discipline, we have to understand that this is for each and everyone's fault to bring this person to correctness and to bring him to restore this person. So the love of the church must be manifest and evident, and it must be clear. In Hebrews 12, the chapter of Hebrews 12, it applies also about the chastisement. But many churches do not practice. However, the Bible gives clear instruction on the subject. As we have reviewed, the man whom Paul confronted and whom the church discipline was helped by this kind of loving attention. The church discipline must be exercised in love. So we must understand that when this discipline is applied, we should not think that this is the punishment because they don't care about you, or because some churches they excommunicate. Okay, so in application to the churches, it must be also applied when we are studying for the truth of God and what Apostle Paul is bringing to the attention of his mother. It is worth noting that Paul did not mention the name of the man who had opposed him and divided the church family. However, Paul did tell the church to discipline this man for his own good. Implementing church discipline requires lots of wisdom, patience, prayer, and love. So all these lots of wisdom, patience, prayer, and love must be applied to this offender. I just want in our local church, when one of our leader had came to the situation that he commit mistakes in his heart, he knows that he did wrong, and he come forward and to talk to the pastor and to the leader, and the church applied discipline. So he was called off for the church pulpit. He was not handling choir. He was not standing in pulpit for I think 6 months because of the sin that he committed. And so he humbly come down and accept the correctness of the church. The church was there, and they don't degrading, belittling the church member, but out of love, they corrected him and he was restored. Some other brethren who committed sin, but the church, by their prayers, patience, and love, these people, these children of God, was restored. Because if the church will not do something and we will let it go, we are tolerating these things, then we are not standing for the truth, and we are not rebuking or correcting the church for committing sin. So, how do we restore a person if we will not apply love, if we will not apply discipline? And the leader must stand firm to apply discipline. So, not to what you could say, to display that the church is terror, or the church is you should be feared. You should not be feared if you're not doing wrong. But if you did wrong, a sin, you must be feared, because you have the church, you have the leader to take stand to restore you, to apply love. Next, last. Number 3, love forgives and encourages. Love forgives and encourages. In verse 7 to 11. For his own sake, Paul urged that the church family to forgive the man, and he gave a solid reason to back up his admonition. For his own sake. In verse 7 and 8. I will read, so that the contrary was, he ought rather to forgive him and comfort him, lest perhaps such a one should swallow up with overmuch sorrow. So, kung yung person who committed sin, and then we did not help him because of too much sorrow, then it's the opportunity for Satan to work on this situation. So instead of a person committed sin to be restored, then he or she will continue and then go backsliding, and then he will not be restored. For his own sake, Paul urged the church and family to forgive the man. Forgiveness is the medicine that helps to heal broken hearts. it was important that the church assured this repentant member of their love. So it is important that the person who committed sin in the church as one of the members of the church, okay, to assure that the church is applying forgiveness and encourages them. Letter B, for the Lord's sake, when the church family assures forgiven member or sister that the sin is forgotten, then there is a sense of Lord's presence that is wonderful to experience. That should be confirmed to the forgiven brother and sister for the Lord's sake. In verse 9 to 10, discipline is an obligation to a brother. Discipline is an obligation to a brother or sister, and an obedience to the Lord. I will read in verse 10. To whom you forgive anything, I forgive also. For if I forgive anything, to whom I forgive it, for your sake, forgive it in the presence of Christ. Discipline is an obligation of brother and obedience to the Lord. In verse 10, to whom you forgive anything, I forgive also. So, as we look deeper on it, Paul awaits the church decision. He was prepared to sanction their ruling on the matter. Notice here that there is no hierarchical structure dictating to the local assembly. The ruling authority was the local church. And let us see, for the church's sake, when there is an unforgiving spirit in a congregation, Satan will use the spirit to operate in the congregation. So again, the church must apply the spirit of love and the truth. And there should be forgiveness and encouragement. If we don't have this, then even we are inside the church, then the Satan will has a freedom to operate and to turn down the person that he should be restored. For the church's sake, and let us see, when there is an unforgiving spirit in the congregation, Satan will use us to operate in the congregation. We give the Holy Spirit or give the place to the devil. When harbor an unforgiving spirit, in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 27 to 32, this is true in all aspects of life. That when the enemy is working on this, especially in this situation. In verse 11, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his device. Let us examine and look on the last two verses on the verse of 11. His devices. For we are not ignorant of his devices. Paul knew that Satan will use this incident to distract and diminish the work of God in the Corinthian assembly, or even in our application to our church, unless it is properly handled. The main target of Satan's attack is the gospel. If we compare on the chapter 4, verse 4, if he can bring disunity to his church, which is the agent of propagating the gospel, then he will bring disorder on the gospel. The church that God can best use is the church that exudes God's forgiveness and consolation. Again, the church that God can best use is the church that discharges or releases God's forgiveness and consolation. The conclusion, Paul was able to overcome the problem that we face because he had a clear conscience and a compassionate heart. Let us always be mindful that the important characteristic of love, it puts others first, it seeks to help others grow, and it forgives and encourages. So these verses in the chapter 2, verse 1 to 11, so three things we have learned. Love puts others first, love seeks to help others grow, and love forgives and encourages. Thank you. popular. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brother Alex. Okay, let's just take a quick review and then dismiss our session for this afternoon. So the lesson is about a compassionate heart. Okay? Very, very important subject. Okay? So what did Brother Alex told us? Look at the introduction of the notes. Na meron isang membro sa church sa Corinth na talagang he was causing whole problem. I think every church has this. Dito sa BBC wala akong naisip. Except one. Hindi na understand what I said, right? In many churches, honestly speaking, dito naman wala pa akong, before Parnell, when I first came, but you know, the Lord has really blessed us with a great church. So, yung problema nila dito is yung tao dito sa may 1 Corinthians chapter 5. Look at that. For a while, sabi na. Verse 1, it is commonly reported, hindi lang not just one person, that it was commonly reported that there is fornication among you. Very rare kind of fornication. And such fornication as is not so much named among the Gentiles, that one should have his father's wife. So ganito yung ano problema dito, no? The one member was having an affair with his father's wife, so his stepmother niya. Siguro medyo bata pa yung stepmother. And they are puffed up. Ito yung attitude ng church sa Corinth. And have not rather mourned. They were not doing anything about it. You know, parang okay lang. That he that hath done this deed might be taken away from among you. Dapat Paul is saying you should do something about this. Implement church discipline. For I verily, as absent in the body, sinasabi ni Apostle Paul, hindi niyo ako kasama dyan, but I am present in spirit. Have judged already as though I were present. Sabi ni Apostle Paul, hindi niyo ako kasama, pero in spirit kasama niyo ako, at alam ko na ang sentensya ko dyan. I know what I'm going to do. As though I were present. Kung sa tingin, that has done this deed. Look at verse 4. In the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, when ye are gathered together, that is the assembly, and my spirit, and with the power of the Lord Jesus Christ. Look at verse 5. This is what the Apostle Paul, that is his verdict, to deliver such an one unto Satan for the destruction of the flesh. For the destruction of the flesh. That means the person, you know, when you play with sin, then it says to deliver such an one to Satan for the destruction of the flesh. That the spirit, the small letter S, that is not the Holy Spirit, but his spirit may be what? Saved in the day of the Lord Jesus. So, this is the problem, and this is probably the same person that was causing the Apostle Paul problem. Okay, one who is questioning the Apostle Paul's authority. So, now how do you deal with that kind of problem? So we go to chapter 2 now, and just take a quick review of what Brother Alex told us. So the first lesson that we learn is love what? Puts others first. Okay. Now, this is talking about Paul and his relationship with the believers in Corinth. Okay? And he wrote them, as I think he is also referring to his letter in 1 Corinthians chapter 3. Tingnan niyo yung ano sinasabi ng Apostle Paul dito. 1 Corinthians chapter 3. And I, brethren, could not speak unto you as unto a spiritual, but as unto what? So how did Paul call the believers in Corinth? He called them what? Carnal. Okay. Even as unto babes in Christ. He said, I have fed you with milk and not with meat, for hitherto ye are not able to bear it, neither yet now are ye able, for ye are yet what? Carnal. For whereas there is among you envying and strife and divisions, are ye not carnal and walk as men? You see how many times the Apostle Paul mentioned the word carnal? How would you like to hear that kind of preaching? Okay. Nasasabihan ka na carnal, carnal. Masakit, di ba? Okay. Masakit. It's the Apostle Paul saying this. And yung amen, they can also say this. But, here the Apostle Paul is making an explanation. He said in verse 4, for out of much affliction and anguish of heart, I wrote unto you with many tears. That means the Apostle Paul did not enjoy just, sending them those very strong letters. When a preacher is enjoying himself, is calling people carnal, there is something wrong with him first. Meaning, what is causing you to call people carnal is not because of anger or because you are better than others. It's because you love those people. So, Paul was saying, out of much affliction and anguish of heart, I wrote unto you with many tears. Not that you should be grieved. It's not to make you feel bad. But that you may know the love which I have more abundantly unto you. That means His love caused Him to tell the people the truth. Yung ganyang pagmamahal sa tao, yun ang nagtulak sa Kanya para sabihin sa kanila kung ano yung katotohanan. Okay? So, we see how much he wrote them a stern letter born out of anguish of his own heart and bathed in Christian love. So, yung ganyang mensahe na yun, I'm sure pinag-pray niya yun, pinag-isipan niya yun, and it was a very hard message that it's coming from a heart full of love. I have noticed this. When people knows that the pastor loves them, even if he preaches a very strong message, they don't mind. Am I right? That's why it's different. It's different. Sometimes the difference is who is preaching. If somebody is preaching, may nag-preach dito, and he preaches a very hard message, but he is somebody the people really don't know very much, or the people do not know that that person loves them, it is different. Mabigat ang dating sa kanila. It's very painful for the people. For somebody who stands here, and he is calling these people carnal, and the people doesn't know if that person loves them. He has not shown a love for these people, and now he is saying, you are carnal. It's different when a preacher loves the people, and he preaches a very hard message. The people can accept that because the people knows in their heart that the pastor is preaching that very hard message out of love. Okay? That's why when you are preaching at this pulpit, be careful. Okay? If you have not really manifested love to those people to make them feel that you love them and now you are just lambasting them, iba ang dating. Believe me. Iba ang dating. It's not to say that I am better than other preachers. But let's say Brother Alex will preach something here, a very hard message, for example, and I preach the same hard message. The people can probably accept my message, and the people will find it hard to swallow from another preacher. The difference is, who is speaking? Is it coming from a person, from a heart full of love, or is it just coming from a person who just, just enjoys preaching hard? Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, so love puts others first. His great desire was that the church might obey the word, disciplines the offender, and firm, and bring purity and peace in the congregation. That's a very important part. And if you have questions, we will gladly entertain that one. Okay? Love puts others first. Even if you say things, please say things with love. Even if you have to confront somebody, you confront them with love. Kasi lahat ng tayo nagkakaroon. Amen? And so you don't have to, you don't have to rebuke the person just for the sake of rebuking. And I guarantee you, kung meron man deacon na lalapit sa inyo at kakausapin ngayon for doing something that's wrong, it's not because of him. It's because, because that person loves you, because the church loves you. And no deacon comes to you and confronts you without discussing the matter to me first. We discuss the matter, and then we try to think of the best way to approach the person. Okay? Why? Because we want to help the person. We want to help the person. So, very important lesson, love puts what? Others first. The second is love what? Love also seeks to help others grow. When the person makes a mistake, when the person commits sin, we should try to help the person. If your watch doesn't work, if one day you look at your watch, it's no longer working, what do you do? Throw it at the garbage? Take a hammer and hammer it down? No, what do you do? Take it to the repair shop. Maybe the battery is not working anymore. So you take it to somebody and have it fixed. If you have a phone that you really like, you do the same thing. Or anything that is valuable to you, you don't need to throw it away. And if we do that with our personal belongings, how come now when people do something that's wrong, we just want to destroy them? It's not like that. When people make mistakes, we should have a compassion. We should have a compassionate heart to help them grow. See, this man did something that was really wrong. But hindi yung kasalanan ginawa niya nito. But Paul was thinking about the person, trying to rescue the person. And if he's not repentant, then turn him over to the devil. That is, if that's what he likes. But, first is to help that person realize his mistakes and help him. It is worth noting that the person that Paul did not mention the name of the man who had opposed him and divided the church family. Wala kayong makikitang binabanggit sa Apostle Paul dito. He doesn't want to unnecessarily destroy the person. Because if we make it public now, a lot of churches make a huge mistake about this. Speaking of church discipline, a lot of the churches, they cause more problem because of the way they handle the problem. They cause more problem. Halimbawa, somebody made a mistake, and so you implemented church discipline, but you did not exercise proper discretion and wisdom. You have to understand they have relatives in the church. They have father and mom who is in the church, siblings that are in the church, friends that are in the church. And I'm telling you, it will affect those people. It might be an avenue for Satan to take, Satan is very clever. Satan will seize every opportunity to disrupt the harmony in the church. So it is true that we should implement church discipline, but it should be exercised with wisdom. You really need to pray for him. Do not just rush into just taking care of the problem. Be careful. Why? We will find that in just a little while. Okay? So Paul did not tell the church to discipline this man for his own good for him. But implementing church discipline requires, this is the part, implementing church discipline requires plenty of what? Wisdom and patience and prayer and love. Yeah. So again, as I have mentioned, there are people who will be affected, and what if, anong mararamdaman nila? Okay? So, take care of the problem properly. Kung may mga magulang na nandyan, maybe you need to talk to the parents first. For example, if I have a problem, let's say, let me just use Brother Raymond. Let's say he is Brother Danny's son. Okay? And I have a problem with Brother Ray. You know what I should do? First, I'll go and ask Brother Dan. The parents. I'll try to feel yung heart niya. And then just, in a nice way, The first thing that we have done this before. We do not make it public, but me and my wife, so many times we took a person and then we just said, can we just talk to you in a nice way? And then we take that person to the side or someone, and then first we pray. And we pray. And then after praying, I read a verse. You make a plan. How do you approach this? You approach the person in a nice way, and then you start with prayer. Make sure that you are right with God first, and then you read the scripture, and then begin talking to the person. But if I'm going to take care of Brother Ray, which is the son of Brother Danny, for example, I'll talk to Brother Danny first. Brother Danny is the problem. Will you please advise me, what should we do about this? Do you understand? Now I need his help. I will get him on my side. He knows that I'm not trying to harm his son. He knows that I'm here to help him with his son. Do you understand what I'm saying? It requires plenty of wisdom. If he made a mistake and so you just approach the person, it's not like that. Be careful, because instead of protecting the church, you might allow Satan to cause more problems in the church. So, again, love also seeks to help others. Okay? You put others first, and then you seek to help others, even the offender, even the ones who have caused problems. And then, love, what's the third point? Forgives and encourages. Okay? For three reasons. We should love, we should forgive, and encourage others for three reasons. The first reason is what? For his own sake. For the sake of the offender. For the sake of the offender. Now, minsan naman, kapag may kasalanan naman, hindi naman sa inaano, kung nakikita mo hindi naman serious, na pwedeng lapitan lang at saka simple lang naman ang bagay, hindi naman kailangan parating. Yeah. And so, okay, just be careful, okay? But every case is different, so however they want to address the problem, it's up to them. Okay? But I have seen churches, in the 40 years, almost 40 years, that I have been in the ministry, I have seen so many churches split. And sometimes it's the fault of the pastor for not properly exercising discernment in handling things like that. For his own sake, Paul urged the church family to forgive the man, and he gave solid reasons to back up his admonition. Sinabi ni Apostle Paul, for his own sake. That means if you are trying to rebuke Brother Ray, it's for his own sake. You are trying to help him. Okay? It is forgiveness is a medicine that helps to heal broken hearts. So it was important that the church assures this repentant member of their love. So kung nakakausapin that, you may know this, you may not know this, but that we love you. And we want you to grow in the Lord. We want you to be used of God. Kasi kung hindi ka namin mahal, kung hindi ka namin, wala kang, makita mong lumago ka sa pananampalataya, papabayaan ka naman namin. Isasara na namin ang pintuan para bawal ka na pumunta rito. Hindi naman. Okay. Second, let it be, again, meron din yung offender na, if the offender is repentant and remorseful, help that person. But if the person is stiff-necked, hard-headed, and rebellious, so you deal with the person kung ano yung spirit niya. Kung talagang he is causing, let's say, Brother Ray is a problem in the church. And the problem with Brother Ray is he is trying to turn other members against the man of God. Ibang usapan niya. The Bible says, mark them, di ba, which cause divisions. Okay, you'll probably say, Brother Ray, I'm sorry, but I think it's time for you to find another. Hindi ko sinasabi sa ito, Then, example lang ito, para mawala kayo the next week. There will be times when you have to tell the person, we have just so happy na sama namin dito yung pastor. I think it's about time for you to find another church. And even when you do that, you still have to do it in a nice way, because he will still be able to influence other people. whether you like it or not. Again, discernment, wisdom, pray and ask God for wisdom. Pray, second is for the Lord's sake. It was the Lord who gave the command, so when you do it, you are doing it for the Lord's sake. When a church family assures a forgiven brother or sister that the sin is forgiven, forgotten. Maybe not forgotten, but forgiven. Because it's hard to forget. It's impossible, in fact, to forget. You are not like computers that you can just simply delete, wala na. Okay? To forgive means never bring the matter back again. Do not revive the past. Okay? If you are truly forgiven. There is a sense of the Lord's presence and the wonderful experience. So love should be confirmed to the forgiven brother or sister for the Lord's sake. So, for his own sake, and for the Lord's sake, and of course, number 3 is for the church's sake. It is for the church, for the good of the church. When there is a forgiving spirit in the congregation, Satan will use that spirit to operate in the congregation. Okay? Satan will use that. Can you please start to Hebrews chapter... I'm sorry, I'm not prepared for this. I hope I can find you. Chapter 12 and verse number 15. 14. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 14. All together, ready? Begin. Follow this without fear and holiness, without which no man shall see the Lord. Looking diligently, lest any man fail of the grace of God, lest any root of bitterness is springing up trouble you, and thereby many be defiled. Kung titignan mo yan. In verse 14, the Lord wants us to follow this. In fact, the Bible tells us in the book of Romans chapter 12, as much as lieth in you, live what? Peaceably with all men. Now look at verse number 15. Looking diligently lest any man fail of the grace of God. What is the cause of an unforgiving spirit and bitterness? What is the cause? Failure to assimilate the grace of God. But the grace of God is sufficient. Amen? The grace of God is sufficient. When we fail to assimilate the grace of God, the Bible says, lest any root of bitterness roots. When you see a grass growing, actually sa ilalim may mga dainty ramo. It's in the one word. May mga gamot na da. Lest any root of bitterness. So before lumabas yung bitterness mo, actually matagal na yan dyan. It is there already. Long before you see a fight, the root is there already. Lest any root of bitterness springing up, what happens? Trouble you, and thereby, what is the cause? What is the result? May they be defiled. When you have bitterness, it will destroy you. It will destroy the person to whom you are bitter with, and it will also defile others. This can happen in the church. If you go to the hospital, na-imagine nyo ngayon mga nurses, and sure if you visit the hospital, before you enter the room or after leaving, what do? May nilalagay sila na sanitizer. So that when you get out of the hospital, if you are around people who has typhoid fever, contagious siya, di ba? Yung typhoid, do you know typhoid fever? That's very contagious. Okay? So you use sanitizer so that you will not spread that, or others will not be contaminated. Okay? We should be careful about that. And the Bible says that when we are bitter, when there is hatred, and we are not willing to forgive, then that will also affect others. So, if somebody here is bitter towards the man of God, just, let's say Brother Ronald, just him, he is bitter to the man of God. Now, Brother Martin, who is his friend, and Jonathan, who is his friend, they have nothing against me, But before long, Brother Martin will also become bitter against me. That's why he wanted to take over the church. You remember when I was there? Yeah, because of it. And see, it is contagious. And it will cause divisions and split in the church. And so, love forgives and encourages. We should do this for the sake of the offender, for the sinner, for the sake of the Lord, because he was the one who said, forgive, and also for the church's sake. Na magkakaroon tayo ng church na merong testimony, merong kultura ng pagpapatawad. We grieve the Holy Spirit and give place to the devil when we harbor an unforgiving spirit in our hearts. Ephesians 4:27-30. Okay? So I hope you learned something from the Word of God today. Amen? Compassionate heart. That's very good. This morning we will visit that. Actually, the first one to come to church today was a visitor named he was introduced by God.